The world of RuneScape is a vast and complex one. There are many places to explore and many challenges to face. As a new player, there would surely be too much content to learn before one could make a Let's Play, right? That's me, Anton9102. I'm a new player in RuneScape, and I intend to document my journey with the goal to max my player stats as well as conquer the lands that I find myself in. Follow me in my quest through these vast lands in my RuneScape Let's Play. Days. That is how long I've had the Mimic in my inventory. It's time to push for an end to the Calamity, once and for all. First, I need to find a money-making method that gives me even more GP per hour. I need a lot of GP to end the Calamity. A low estimate would be around 60 million GP. Although Barrows was a decent moneymaker, for such a high amount of GP, I really wanted to find a method that would get me GP a lot quicker. So I made an ambitious, and quite foolish decision. Despite my low stats and inexperience, I'd be attempting to defeat Zulrah with the eventual promise of around 150% more GP per hour. Out of 20 attempts, 2 were successful. With how long this took, the large amount of resources needed, as well as the abysmal success rate, Zulrah clearly wasn't a good moneymaker. Not yet anyway. So, I took a small break from Zulrah, going back to unlocking steps for clue scrolls. I also bought 2 more bonds to refresh my membership, but I really wanted to go back to Zulrah. Although gear and levels were large limiting factors in the amount of profit I could make from Zulrah, I was clearly making many mistakes, so I wanted to see how well I could do by limiting those mistakes. However, after 17 attempts, I only had 1 success, as well as a death right as I killed Zulrah. So, I decided I would withdraw all of the money I had in managing Miscellanea, as well as sell the items I didn't need at the time, and buy the best gear I could with the money in an attempt to make some good money by farming Zulrah. This changed everything. I was able to get incredibly consistent kills. I was still using a lot of resources per fight, dying, or sometimes I just wasn't able to finish off the kill. However, after 66 victories over the Money Snake, I was able, with the help of 70 Marks of Grace, to buy back the Archer's ring that I had previously sold. I bought the ring back for a reason. It was to gear up for the most difficult challenge I had faced yet, the Fight Caves. I wanted to train my melee stats up with the Nightmare Zone minigame, and the Fire Cape would help greatly with that. Each attempt would take upwards of an hour, and at the final fight I was risking death if I missed a single prayer. This was certainly a much bigger challenge than anything I had faced so far, but with how big of an upgrade the cape was, the fight was certainly worth doing. So, I geared up and started on the treacherous journey towards the Fire Cape. Now, with the Fire Cape, my melee training would be much more efficient. And, soon after, I ended up getting my Dragon Defender. I did quite a bit of Nightmare Zone, getting my strength up to 88, and then I went back to doing some Zulrah, which gave me about 1 million GP in profit. Afterwards, I went and completed the quest Mountain Daughter for a medium clue scroll. I then trained up my magic on Ammonite crabs to hopefully make Zulrah an even better moneymaker. I also tried another moneymaker, Bandos, but that didn't really work out, so I went back to Zulrah for moneymaking. The kills were slow, and with my gear I wasn't able to get any upgrades. Until I realized I could actually get a decently big upgrade. It wouldn't cost me any GP, it would be very quick, and I wouldn't be risking the Mimic. Although I'd usually be risking the Mimic if I were to do the Mage Arena mini quest, with the Trident of the Swamp, I wouldn't need to carry any runes. I wouldn't need to risk anything. I quickly obtained the cape and went back to doing Zulrah. And, after getting almost 6 million GP, I went back to exploring Gielinor. I went off to do a bunch of quests. I freed a city of a horrible plague, which I may or may not have caused, helped return a young boy to his family, got rid of a dangerous criminal after he took out the entirety of the Faladorian military, uncovered deep-rooted corruption, seeked to explore and uncover the secrets of Mireditch, and strengthened the Anti-Firewatch Rebellion. I then quickly finished the Lumbridge and Draenor Easy and Medium diaries for the Explorer's Ring to aid me in my journeys across Gielinor, and then continued in my triumphant quest to rally the Myarchy in their goal of taking down the oppressive Firewatch. This all culminated in an epic adventure of stealth, assassination, friendship, puzzle solving, confrontation, loss, vengeance, and ultimately, despair. I had defeated Venstrom Klaus, but in the process destroyed the organization which provided hope for the abused citizens of Meyerditch. I claimed my rewards and went to the new woodcutting method I had unlocked. Not for the experience, instead I pondered on what I had done as well as on the world of Gielinor as a whole. Was this really worth it? Will the humans of Meyerditch ever see hope again? What will happen to Sophalon? Why did Jagex need my email, password, and bank pin to give me double XP? After finally overcoming the lethargic feeling that the Sins of the Father quest afflicted me with, I moved on to my next goal, Monkey Madness 2. This quest would unlock me a moneymaker of around 2 million GP per hour, which I could also get as a Slayer task, the ability to traverse Abotol without a Gree, and, most importantly, the ability to train my magic or ranged at incredibly fast speeds. Bursting or chinning maniacal monkeys offers a high cost, but incredibly quick, method of training magic or ranged. For the cost of 2.5 million GP, I could get around 500,000 ranged XP in 1 hour. For magic training, it is a trade of 1 million GP for 250,000 experience per hour. As I would want those stats in the 90s for the final fight against the Casket, and to fight Zulrah for money, completing Monkey Madness 2 would be an incredibly big unlock. For Monkey Madness 2, I needed to train my Slayer up to 69, so I traded in my Marks of Grace for GP, and went to the Grand Exchange to buy all of the essential Slayer gear. Earlier, during the Sins of the Father quest, I bought a Berserker Ring, Abyssal Whip, and a pair of Dragon Boots. I now continued by buying a Black Mask, some bracelets, a Dwarf Cannon, and a fair amount of cannonballs. I then imbued my Black Mask. I was now ready for Slayer. To get from level 55 to 69 Slayer, it would take just about 500,000 experience. I got to work right away. By the end of the grind, I had accrued a fair amount of cash, even after cannoning many of my tasks, although I did get some of the money from the Multilode Mine. I had also gotten slightly higher combat stats, which would reduce the amount of money I would need to spend on Night Razon, Bursting, and Chinning. So, now all I needed to do was grind out the final stats and quests to be able to do the Monkey Madness 2 quest. I blackjacked to get to level 55 Thieving, completed the Watchtower quest, completed the Enlightened Journey quest, and unlocked the air balloon path to the Grand Tree. I also started on getting Elite Void by completing Eagle's Peak, and a veteran game of Pest Control for the Diary. And so began Monkey Madness 2. Then I continued the grind for Elite Void. I trained up my thieving by stealing artifacts. After I got 72 thieving, I obtained the resources necessary to boost my thieving up to the needed level 75. I then went on to get level 62 construction, complete almost all of the easy to hard diary steps, and then finish the diary by killing 300 jumpy birds. With completing the Western Province's easy, medium, and hard diaries, I now unlocked the ability to get Elite Void Armor. Now, all I needed to do was farm the points. And so, I obtained Elite Void Armor with a ranged helmet. I got Elite Void to eventually do Vorkath, but my membership was going to run out soon, so I went to do some Zulrah to get a bond. During all of this, I maintained doing my daily tree runs, so by this point, I reached level 83 farming, which meant I could finally plant my first spirit tree. I chose Brimhaven as it seemed like the most useful place to have a spirit tree. Even though I had a decent amount of membership from farming that one bond from Zulrah, I still needed more money to get better gear and to possibly spend some on chaining or bursting for quick levels. So I went back to Zulrah and ended up getting my second unique, another uncut onyx. It was also around this time that around a week and a half of Motherlode Mine culminated in hitting level 80 mining. With Zulrah, I was earning a decent amount of GP, however, it wasn't too great. In order to improve my PVM money making opportunities, I would need to get better gear and raise my stats. With Zulrah, I could get GP, but my stats weren't going up very quickly. It just didn't seem very efficient. So, at 300 KC, I made the decision to stop doing Zulrah for a while. Instead, I would go and do Slayer. With Slayer, I could get tasks that I could cannon for quick ranged XP, tasks to burst for quick magic experience, and maybe even some tasks that would give a decent amount of profit. And I had a lot of fun when I went from level 55 to 69 Slayer, so I decided I would go back to Slayer. Everything was going well. I was getting tasks to cannon and eventually got a ranged level, and then I got a Black Demons task. For this task, I could kill demonic gorillas for some decent money from alkables, and I would have a chance at the Zenite Shard, a 1 in 300 drop worth around 11 million GP. I geared up and got ready to start my task. It was a nice task. It was a little bit difficult at first, but eventually I got used to the mechanics and the money earned from alkables was pretty good. I also got a Zenite. I got 2 Zenites. So that was a pretty good task. After finishing off the rest of the demonic gorillas, I had 31 million in raw currency. I could have bought Rigor then and there for 30 million, but I decided to hold off and hide the money just in case the banks failed. 30 million GP is a lot, and it would be incredibly helpful. However, the monetary goal for ending the calamity has shifted slightly. The top end of how much GP I wanted used to be around 50 million. However, I created a spreadsheet and wrote out all of the items I wanted, and included the cost of bursting and chinning, 170 million GP. This is an estimate on the high end, but the main takeaway is that I need a lot of GP, more than I thought initially. But I was ready to start on the grind. I also got a 3rd Zenite, so demonic gorillas have been good. Now that I had higher stats from all of the Slayer grinding, I found myself finally ready to take on my second Grandmaster quest, Dragon Slayer 2. I would embark on an epic quest that would take me on a journey to rid Gielinor of the influence of the Dragonkin. But I had some quests I needed to complete first. So, I helped Bob the Cat in his romantic affairs, helped an adventurer fight his inner demons, and then defeated a real demon. I was now ready to start the quest. With Dragon Slayer 2 complete, I could now upgrade my Ava's device by defeating Vorkath to obtain its head. I farmed 200 pest points to unlock the melee helmet, dug up my 30 million, unlocked the rigger, and got all of the gear I would need for Vorkath. And I set forth on my grind for Vorkath's head. I ended up only needing 14 KC for the first head drop. And then I went to do a little bit of Zulrah, Slayer, and I even did a little bit more Vorkath. However, my membership was about to end, so I sold off a bunch of loot, and my BGS as well, and bought 3 bonds. Now, with 45 days of membership, I went back to doing Slayer to raise my stats and earn money. I also hit level 80 fishing, and went back to doing Nightmare Zone to raise my melee stats for my next big challenge. I even bought Obsidian armor to make my Nightmare Zone training a little bit more efficient. Also, I started doing my Gargoyles task at Grotesque Guardians, which would provide a decent amount of money and Granite Dust. Granite Dust can be used on cannonballs to improve their max hit from 30 to 35, meaning I would get more value out of my cannonballs. And then, I went on to do about a week of Nightmare Zone, raising my attack from level 79 to 89, and my defense from level 75 to 84. I was nearing my goals for taking on this next piece of content. I finished my Gargoyles task and even got a good drop. Then I completed a few more Slayer tasks and went to sell the items I got to get ready for the final preparations. Chambers of Xeric. That was the next challenge. I would do it with one other person. Neither of us had high Herblore, and having 78 Herblore would greatly help our ability to do the raid. As I needed 78 Herblore already in order to complete Son of the Elves to complete a step on my Master Clue Scroll, I decided I would take on this burden. So, I started the Herblore training, finished off my Nightmare Zone training and sold the Obsidian gear, finished off the training to 78 Herblore, and got the final item I needed, a Fighter Torso. We were now ready to take on the Chambers of Xeric. Chambers of Xeric was certainly a challenge. After stumbling through the chambers, which took us 4 hours, we were left with 7,672 points. Perhaps not the best first result, but we carried on. Our next result was under 2 hours, and this time we got 17,000 points. By our 5th attempt, we were getting around 25,000 points in under 2 hours. I also hit level 91 strength around this time, and managed to get an elite casket. After a bit of practice, we were fairly consistently getting over 30,000 points in a little bit over an hour. With this amount of points, we would have about a 3.5% chance for a unique role each raid. And at 19 KC, it happened. We only ended up getting an Arcane Prayer Scroll, but the extra 500,000 GP for each of us was a welcome sight. And I ended up hitting 90 farming. These tree runs have really been adding up. And from one of the raids, I got an elite clue scroll with a step I couldn't complete. I needed to go to Vice, which I hadn't unlocked yet, but this wouldn't be a difficult step to unlock. So, I reached level 66 fire making, earned Taibo 1 I favor, completed the Cold War quest, and then completed the My Arm's Big Adventure quest, which allowed me to complete making friends with my arm. I could now add another casket to my collection. Chambers of Xeric was incredibly fun. However, I wouldn't be able to actively play for a little while. So, at 27 KC, we decided to take a break. I still continued my tree runs and hit 91 farming from it, and I decided I would do some low effort moneymakers for the time being. I reached 81 fletching from fletching bows for GP, reached 83 crafting by crafting jewelry, and bought a dragon pickaxe to prepare for the Motherlode mine, which would be a fairly decent moneymaker once I hit 85 mining. I then hit level 92 farming from Hespori, claimed a bond as my membership was about to run out, and got to mining. I would mine for a little while, and then list the ores on the GE. I also hit level 93 farming around this time. By the end of the small break, I had accrued around 13 million GP. I eased back into playing the game by completing the Christmas event first, and then I went back to doing Slayer tasks. My first task back would be Black Demons, which I would kill demonic gorillas for. I didn't get any Zenyte shards, but I did reach level 89 ranged. And my next task would be a boss task for the Kalphite Queen. I chose to do the maximum amount of KC I could, 35. I decided that before I did the task, I would go for level 81 agility, as this would allow me to use the agility shortcut to the Kalphite Queen if I boosted with a Summer Pie. I used the Hallowed Sepulchre and ended up dying a few of my graceful pieces. Unfortunately, I didn't know that the Desert Elite Diary was a requirement for the shortcut. This would require me to kill the Kalphite Queen many times to obtain the Kalphite Queen head, and would also require me to grind out many more high stats. This wouldn't really be an option for a while, but having the increased agility level would at least help with the large amount of running I would need to do without the shortcut, and the money I earned from the Sepulchre was enough for me to buy Bando's Godsword. I would at least be able to redeem myself by completing the Desert Hard Diary, which would mean that the ropes placed at the Kalphite lair would last indefinitely, instead of me having to place a new set of ropes every time I went to the lair. So, I completed the quests I would need to, and went off to complete the diary steps. Apparently, one of the steps requires having a Slayer helm, which I don't have, so I guess I'm not finishing that diary. So, with ropes in my inventory, and without the help of a shortcut, I went off to complete my task. At least I managed to obtain another elite casket. Once I finished the task, I ended up getting blue dragons, which I would kill Vorkath for. As I only needed money at this point, this was a perfect task to get. I first went back to the Sepulchre to get the final recolor for my Graceful set. Then I sold some loot and went off to do the task, getting 84 magic and 90 ranged. Then I did a few cannon tasks, and finally I had enough money and made the decision to purchase the Necklace of Anguish. I then continued to do Slayer, getting some nice XP from cannoning, bursting tasks, and Lizardman Shamans. It was around this time that I decided to make a change to the list of items I wanted to obtain. I changed the Ring of Suffering to the Amulet of Torture. Honestly, I'm probably not going back to Zulrah. Slayer will probably continue to be the way that I make money, so the Torture would be much more useful. I then got a pretty nice task, Gargoyles. I would go back to the Grotesque Guardians. The task would take a little while, but by the end of it, I would have a decent amount of GP. From the task, I even ended up getting the Black Tourmaline Core, which would be an extra 2.8 million GP. I also got another Elite Casket for the collection. By the end of the task, I could buy the Amulet of Torture. I was one step closer to ending the Calamity. Some more cannoning, bursting, and normal Slayer later, I decided it was finally time to complete another goal from the list. I would be getting level 75 construction and completing Song of the Elves, so I could finally complete my Master Clue Scroll. I turned in the long and curved bones I had acquired over my time of Slayer, drank from the Tears of Guthix, and went to train with Mahogany Homes. That is 75 construction obtained. I first decided to make changes to my house, and then I completed Morning's End Part 1 and 2, and Making History. I was now ready for Song of the Elves. I could now continue with my Master Clue Scroll, and luckily, I was actually able to complete the Master Clue Scroll. I went back to Slayer and ended up getting 92 strength, and then got another Gargoyles task, which would mean I could get some good progress towards completing the list. But first, I got 95 farming, 82 fletching, and 89 fishing. There wasn't any particular reason for the levels, I just wanted to do a bit of skilling. I ended up getting a jar of stone and another core, an additional 5 million GP on top of the other drops I got. This meant that I had enough money for another item on the list, the Tormented Bracelet. I was getting really close to finishing the list, and I realized that obtaining level 90 magic through bursting would be something I would have to save for after the Calamity. I would eventually get it through Slayer, so I didn't see any reason to burst Maniacal Monkeys, and it isn't really necessary at the moment. Whatever magic level I end off with after doing enough Slayer to buy the items I wanted would be the magic level I finished the Calamity with. So, with that in mind, I continued on doing quick Slayer tasks, and ended up getting Black Demon's task. If I were to get a Zenyte shard, I would make a lot of progress towards the items I wanted. I started off the task with using the totems I had acquired from all the bursting tasks I had done to get some ancient shards to charge my arc light and get some more reward caskets to hold on to. I ended up getting 7 more hard caskets, 2 more elite caskets, and ended off with 13 ancient shards. I would definitely have enough arc light charges for the task. I hit 80 for fletching with some more passive training, and went off to continue my task. I got 2 Zenytes in the single task. This was certainly enough money to end the Calamity. So I went off to finish the task, and obtained 5 more hard caskets, and 1 more elite casket. So I sold the loot, and bought the final items I would need. I had everything I set out to obtain before ending the Calamity. There was nothing left, except to fight the casket. A few more fletching levels of contemplation later, I was ready to open up all of the caskets. First, I went through the easy, medium, and hard caskets. From a hard casket, I got a Master Clue Scroll, and, luckily, I was able to complete it. These caskets left me with about 1.4 million GP. It was finally time to fight the Mimic. It was over. The loot wasn't too great, but I did finally unlock my 28th inventory slot. I actually ended up getting another Mimic from the elite caskets. From this one, I got a Ring of Third Age. It was an extra 3 million GP. Then I got a Master Clue Scroll that I had to complete a quick mini-quest for. I quickly completed Curse of the Empty Lord, and then got a step that I would need an Infernal Axe for. To create the axe, I would need 85 fire making. I only had 66 fire making, so I quickly got 85 fire making, completed the Master Clue, opened all of the crates for a full set of Pyromancer gear and 4.7 million GP, and got back to opening elite caskets, and got a few more Master Clue scrolls which I completed along the way. And then, I got a Master Clue that I couldn't complete. I would need 82 thieving and then I could boost to 85 to complete the step, but I only had level 73 thieving. So, I quickly obtained 82 thieving and the boost that I would need, and finished the Master Clue scroll. And then, I opened the rest of the caskets. This left me with 21 million GP. I got a good amount of loot from the elite and master caskets. It was an incredible journey to be on. I went to vast lands, leveled up my skills, took on new challenges, improved my gear drastically, and took on all 3 Grand Master quests. I look forward to my next journey.